Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be working on the Hellcat Magnum. And if you are interested in seeing my previous video where I was in Tucson and helped Sarah end tune out and reviewed all of her vehicles, the link is up in the corner. First thing I need to start off with is uncoiling all of this stainless steel tube. What I'm going to do is start uncoiling the tube by hand. Now that I've uncoiled the tubing by hand, the next thing I'm going to need to run it through is a tubing straightener. Always straighten more than you think you're going to need, because once you start putting bends in the line, you're not going to be able to run it back through the straightener. Also, when you order the tube from the tubing company, they always put this weird little bend on each end. So you're going to want to cut that off a few inches down just to give you a fresh start. After cutting the tubing with the tubing cutter, there's going to be this weird little burr that you're going to want to take off with a drill. Burr is now taken off of the end of the tubing, and if you don't have a drill or a drill bit, you can use a file. I need to now flare the end of the line, but before I do that, don't forget to put your fitting on, because you can't get it on after you bend the line. The flaring tool is really easy to use. You just put the right die in it, lock it in, snug it up a little bit, then you put it on option 0, push that all the way in, tighten it all the way down because you don't want the line to move while you're flaring it. We are working with some 5/16, so you want to do option 1. Put some lubrication on the die. What option 1 does is it bubbles the end of the tubing. So then you want to go to option 2, 5/16, to put the 45-degree flare. Now loosen everything up, pull off your die, and now I have a perfectly flared end of the stainless steel tubing. Next up, I need to Cerakote both of the exhaust manifolds. The Hellcat Magnum is now finally on the ground once again, and I'm really excited because the car is this close to running and driving. All the brake lines are now finished, the radiator hoses are connected, all of the engine wiring is now completed, besides connecting the wire coming from the alternator and the intercooler pump for the supercharger to the distribution blocks now that the fuse box is in the rear of the car instead of the engine bay. I still have a few things that I need to do on the car before she'll run and drive. One is to fabricate the fuel tank, which I've already had SendCut cut out pretty much 75% of the pieces that I need to make the fuel tank. So we're almost there. I also need to do the exhaust. The exhaust isn't that big of an issue, so I'm not really too worried about the exhaust system. I have the headers on there, or the exhaust manifolds from the Durango Hellcat. They're Cerakoted. The exhaust is going to be really straightforward. I still need to do the transmission cooler lines. Those aren't going to be that difficult. And the fuel lines. So the fuel tank and the fuel lines are going to be their own project for the next video. And then the transmission lines will probably get done in that video as well. And the shift cable for the transmission, that just needs to be hooked up. I need to weld a bracket together. So I've already designed the bracket, SendCut, cut it and bent it. And all I have to do is weld that shift selector cable to that bracket. So we're getting very close. Once the fuel tank is in the car, fuel lines are plumbed, she'll be able to finally fire up. And all the brake lines are finally done, so that is a big plus. I'm really happy how everything has turned out. Don't worry about the car. She is very dirty right now, but I'm really happy just how nice and stock everything looks. So I need to actually remove this intercooler. This is like a reservoir for the intercooler coolant. I'm going to move that. I'm most likely going to make something that goes where the old fuse box went, and it'll just look really clean. It actually looks really clean without all of that, you know, the fuse box being there. So that'll be a plus. But the fuel rails, I just need to plumb everything for the fuel rails that I designed, plumb some stuff for this catch can from AAD Performance, and then I want to plumb this over here over the catch can as well, instead of having it go with that little, there's like a little check valve that Dodge made. I'm pretty much deleting all that stuff. I don't have any of the evap stuff coming from the charcoal canister, is no longer in the car. I didn't plan on running it because this thing's going to be turned up anyways. It's not going to pass emissions. So there's no reason to have all that extra stuff, extra weight in there just for the sake of it being there, because I know it's not going to work. So I'm really happy that the radiator hoses are all hooked up. We have the smaller pulley, all that stuff's done. The big thing is these custom brake lines I actually ended up having to make. So I reached out to a company. They were unable to get the brake lines to work. They kept sending me brake lines. They got to a point where I was like, well, I need to have these done, and I like how these came out. I really wish this brake line could have come over from this spot right here. Just aesthetically, it looks really nice because over here this looks super nice, but there was no way it would have collided, and I didn't want to have any issues because it was just so close. So I actually made this brake line twice because it ended up having an issue going over this other one. So really happy how the car is coming out. I really love these fuel rails. Most likely I'm going to be offering these, and these should work with the Whipple once I put the 4-liter Whipple on this car. Well, the 4-liter Whipple on the built engine. But this will just be a test to make sure everything's going to work. I'm really happy that all the axles and everything fit as well. It was just a big unknown because I was designing all this stuff, and it's just been one of those things where you have to design everything, test it. If it doesn't work, then you have to modify it. But so far it's decent. I still want to change some things once I do billet lower control arms, billet knuckles. I definitely need to do knuckles just because of the steering situation. It puts it at a weird angle, and it's going to be perfectly fine for now. But the billet knuckles and the billet lower control arms are going to drastically affect the handling and the performance of the suspension. But for now, it works perfectly fine. So I'm going to end the video here. I know a lot of people have been wanting a Charger or Hellcat Magnum update, and you guys, we have brakes, we have brake lines. The only thing that's not in there is brake fluid. She's getting very close. If you like these videos, make sure to click the subscribe button, throw a thumbs up, throw a comment below. As always, see you guys next time.